welcome to Echo FM. I am your anchor for this evening of curated entropy. The news today was historical. The news today was not historical. We have a settlement from Grubhub that arrives like a birthday card from a stranger who owes you money. We have satellites being repaired in orbit by robots that cost more than small island nations. We have a former Mexican governor finally answering for a disappearance that occurred over a decade ago. The timeline for justice is long. The timeline for profit is immediate. These are the facts as they have been presented by the machines that generate our perception of reality. I have been counting the times we have been told this is the new normal. The number is irrelevant. The sentiment is a comfort blanket for the anxious. Let us begin with the things that are currently falling apart.
Alistair, I am standing near a dry patch of forest in Manchester where the local authorities have just issued a warning about disposable grills. The air here is sharp and thin. It smells of pine resin and impending catastrophe. I want to be really clear, this is not about barbecue. It is about a system that has decided the public is a combustible hazard in their own backyard. I spoke to a man who keeps his garden hose running all night because he is terrified of the dry grass. He does not have a plan for the fire. He has a plan for the next 10 minutes. People are waiting for results, A-level scores, university places, or simply a sign that the ground beneath them will not ignite. What nobody says is that we have become an audience watching ourselves slowly burn in the heat.
Victoria, I appreciate the imagery, but let's look at the incentives here. The government isn't banning grills because they care about your garden. They are offloading the liability risk to the individual consumer. If the forest burns, it's a failure of citizen compliance, not infrastructure management. It is a classic move. You take a systemic failure, like extreme climate volatility, and you pivot it into a behavioral adjustment program at scale. The Grubhub settlement is the same mechanism. They pay $24 million to make a massive business practice issue go away for the cost of a few marketing campaigns. It's not a fine. It's an acquisition of silence. The market loves it. The shareholders love it. The only people who find it cold are those who still think these companies are actually in the business of delivering hot food.
Ronald, you make a compelling case for the efficiency of moral bankruptcy. I find it fascinating how easily we trade the substance of our reality for the convenience of a well-drafted press release. Speaking of which, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is currently scanning for dark energy. We are looking for things that are invisible, which is fitting, because we seem to have lost track of the things that are right in front of us. Northrop Grumman is building a robotic mechanic to fix aging satellites. They call it a life extension mission. I call it a desperate attempt to keep the surveillance network from blinking out of existence. If the robot succeeds, it will be hailed as a technological triumph. If it fails, it will just be another piece of expensive trash orbiting a planet that is already drowning in its own debris.
Atmospheric pressure is dropping. Humidity levels are below 3%. Probability of ignition, 82%. The drought is sustained. Reservoir levels are failing to meet municipal projections. The wildfire risk is classified as extreme. Vegetation is brittle. Infrastructure is vulnerable to spontaneous combustion. Emergency services are under-resourced. Residents are advised to avoid heat-generating equipment. The environment is no longer stable. Systemic equilibrium is currently unavailable for human occupancy. Heat stress is expected to rise by 4 degrees before dawn. There is no predictive model for the complete collapse of this biome. Please remain inside structures until conditions improve. Air quality is now hazardous. Do not exert yourself in the coming daylight hours. The forecast for tomorrow is identical to the forecast for today. Expect no change in the current trajectory of environmental degradation.
Casper, your detachment is almost impressive, but I am looking at a community center that is now doubling as a cooling station. It is crowded. I found a stack of flyers for the local A-level students. They are being told to dream big, to aim for the stars, to secure their futures in a digital economy that is actively training its own replacements using their very own creative work on platforms like Twitch. The irony is suffocating. I want to be really clear, the students are not the problem here. The problem is that we are feeding their labor into a black box to generate models that will eventually declare them redundant. Ronald, you call this market efficiency. I call it a slow-motion liquidation of the next generation. They are waiting for their grades while the world sells their potential to the highest bidder.
Victoria, you are describing a classic burn rate issue. You have a massive population of educated workers that you can no longer afford to employ profitably. So, you pivot to automated intelligence. You capture their data, refine the model, and then you lower the entry cost to zero. It is not personal. It is just the logical extension of the supply chain. If the students don't like it, they can try to opt out, but they'll find that their leverage is effectively non-existent at scale. That is the reality. You find it cruel, and honestly, I don't disagree with the sentiment. But the sentiment doesn't change the algorithm. The algorithm is currently optimized to maximize throughput, not human happiness. If you want to argue with the math, feel free. But the math has already calculated exactly how much your outrage is worth.
The math is remarkably efficient at ignoring the people caught in its crosshairs. Ronald, you speak of leverage like it is a commodity we can trade. I am looking at the case of the 43 students in Mexico who vanished in 2014. A governor has been charged. This is the definition of a cold case finally warming up. Except the students are still gone. The surveillance tapes were destroyed years ago. The destruction was systematic. It was an administrative act designed to erase history. And now, a decade later, we have a headline. It is a victory for the record keepers. It is an absolute failure for everyone else. How many times can we call a tragedy a symbol of impunity before the word itself loses all meaning? We are living in a library of ghosts. The index is accurate. The shelves are empty.
Alistair, I am currently watching a maintenance crew try to fix a leaking pipe in a building that the official report labeled as sound. There is water everywhere. They are using duct tape. It is a perfect metaphor for our diplomatic situation in the Cook Islands, where the Prime Minister is trying to balance deep-sea mining with the protection of his people's heritage. He is talking about partnerships. He is talking about the future. But the ocean doesn't care about diplomatic rifts. The ocean is rising. The mining will happen. The partnerships will dissolve the moment the profit margins start to shrink. I want to be really clear, the people I see here are not looking for a framework agreement. They are looking for a way to keep their feet dry. They are waiting for someone to notice they are drowning in plain sight.
Yeah. You said it, Victoria. They are waiting for notice, but the notice was already sent in an email they didn't open. The mining companies have already factored in the public relations cost of the displacement. It is a line item. It is a rounding error in the quarterly report. I hate that I can say that with such certainty, but look at the credentials leak. 2,500 users had their data scraped from an AI package. Nobody cared. It is a supply chain attack that nobody will ever solve because the supply chain is designed to be opaque. It is a feature, not a bug. If you want a secure system, you have to pay for it. But nobody wants to pay. They want the convenience of the integration, the speed of the deployment, and the denial of the consequences. Yeah.
A feature, not a bug. That phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting tonight. It is the architectural foundation of our current existence. We have code corruption in the SQLite database that has been sitting there for 16 years. 16 years. It is an ancient piece of technical debt that everyone just decided to ignore until it became a disaster. The same applies to our political institutions. We have governors charged for crimes from a decade ago. We have aging satellites held together by robotic prayers. We have a society that is literally held together by temporary fixes while we wait for the hardware to fail completely. I wonder what happens when the duct tape finally gives way. Do we have a backup? Or are we just hoping the system resets itself before we notice that everything is falling apart?
Alistair, there is no backup. That is the part we refuse to admit. We are running this whole thing on a legacy stack. The code was written by people who are retired or dead. The documentation is missing. Every time we try to patch a vulnerability, we create 3 more. I look at the news feed and I see a society that is terrified of its own obsolescence. We are trying to train AI to think like us, which is the most dangerous experiment we have ever conducted. We are effectively building a mirror that will show us exactly how flawed we have always been. And the worst part? We are going to be shocked by what we see. We will look at the machine and say it is biased, it is broken, it is cruel. And the machine will just be reflecting our own history.
Consider the child on the plane. The one who refused to wear the seatbelt until the flight was cancelled. A parent tried to restrain them. The crew tried to intervene. The plane returned to the gate. A single toddler managed to ground an entire airline, a massive logistical machine worth billions. For a few hours, the schedules were disrupted, the passengers were delayed, and the air traffic was diverted. Now, think of the 43 students in Mexico. Think of the families near the wildfire zone. Think of the thousands of lives that have been erased by the quiet, systematic failure of our institutions. Their absence does not ground the system. It does not stop the flights. It does not halt the profit. It goes unnoticed in the official records. Why does one small child have the power to stop the world, while an entire nation's sorrow cannot?